Hello and welcome to The Wiz Says. I am Brad Wiswall. When some movies are considered classics, you're going to have the ones that are renowned for everybody like E.T., Indiana Jones, Star Wars. Those are classics simply just because of how popular they are. There's other types of movies called cult classics. And cult classics are basically films that are really for a certain group of people or maybe a certain taste that is allowed to it. So, for example, Quadrophenia, which is a musical featuring, I believe, The Who, is considered a cult classic. And a contemporary cult classic, for some of the weirdest reasons, is The Room with Tommy Wiseau. Those of you who watched it, you know why. It's something else. But today I'm going to talk about something that is a cult classic in science fiction movies and in a certain type of film called punk film. And that movie is Repo Man. Written and directed by Alex Cox, this movie is about a young man named Otto. Otto, who has become disenfranchised and hates his job, decides to quit one day and is recruited by Bud, played by Harry Dean Stanton, to become a Repo Man. Now, you're asking, how is this a sci-fi film? It's basically a kid who's gotten sick of his job and is trying something different. Well, what makes it science fiction is the utter randomness that happens in the movie. And
it happens sometimes. People just explode. Natural causes.
What makes Repo Man different from most absurdist films, whether it be satire or whether it's a film like Sweet Movie or WR, Mysteries of an Organism, that there's the other randomness has an actual meaning towards everything, is basically that the film, while being absurdist, is actually quite grounded, and it gives the movie a different type of feel that you wouldn't see in most movies like this. Now, the absurdism in this movie isn't really used for messaging. It's more used for just playing with the plot and then playing with the screenplay with making a fun movie. And this movie is very fun. It's not meant to be taken seriously nearly at all, but it does have a distinct feel to it that is uniquely its own. And it borrows that from its absurdist, its realism, and it's from its punk motifs. Meshing of styles would usually be a problem with most filmmakers. Trying to make something that seems opposite of each other tends to have a problem where you either make it more of one thing, less of another, or you balance them out to a point where either they just don't work either or. With Repo Man, that's different. He uses all three of these types of motifs and turns them into a fabulous setting. The main character of the city is essentially Los Alamos, which I think is set in a futuristic or dystopian-like California. And basically everything in the movie, when it regards to the setting, the place or the characters, as one note and one-dimensional as they are, really benefit the city itself more than it does benefit anything else. The plot in the movie is really not that important because there is no real plot that's going on throughout the film. It's not pretty much devoid of plot like, let's say, Slacker or Dazed and Confused would be. It more or less has a plot that it's holding on to just to give the movie a beginning and an end. But the rest of it is really a feeling of anything can really happen in this movie. And that's one of the biggest strengths in this movie. Even with what I'm showing you right now, you probably have no idea what's going on in the film and what's going to happen and what basically the film is going to be about. And that is a positive thing. Because when you watch the movie and you're surprised by what's going on and you're kind of laughing at some of the humorous things that happen, it really adds to the film. And that's really hard to accomplish with the different types of things that Alex Cox is using to create Los Alamos, and also to keep us engaged and liking characters that pretty much are all anti-heroes. Otto, played by Emilio Estevez, I didn't say that earlier. He's very much an anti-hero. He's a 18-year-old punk who curses at people and hates authority and pretty much is not a good person, but somehow you tend to like him, mainly because Emilio Estevez actually isn't bad in this movie.
Fuck you.
Okay, while we're at it, let's just talk about the performances. Like I said, Emilio was good. Harry Dean Stanton was okay. I mean, he services the plot. I found the love interest to be kind of annoying, but it didn't really matter so much, really, because she's only in the movie like 5, 10, 15 minutes in, for 5, 10, or 15 minutes, so it's not that big of a deal. It's not like a huge deal breaker. Like I said, the performances are good, they're serviceable, but the real star of the movie is going to be the fantastic direction and writing of Alex Cox, and it just gives a feel that most films don't have. I'd say the last thing I'd come away with, and the most important thing to come away with Repo Man, is it is a different film that is made for different people, but it's just enough where I think anybody can actually enjoy it. It is clear that it's meant for a certain section or certain type of people, like movies I've mentioned before, but the movie's just so fun and so out there and so crazy at times that I can see just about anyone laughing at the ludicrousness of this movie. But for film lovers, there's a type of direction that Alex Cox is doing here, using so many different types of styles and motifs and different types and just creating a world out of a dingy, small town. He literally just creates an entire world through this that is the most interesting part of the film. And that's the skill of a good director and a good screenwriter who can create these worlds out of something we see every day. And if it was the 80s as well. I mean, it's from 84, and the 80s kitsch would usually bother me, but it doesn't in this film because it just fits so well with how the rest of the film goes. Overall, Repo Man is a very good movie that uses different types of styles and blends it into one of its own to make a unique and funny experience. It's not deep, it's not thought-provoking, it's not really something that is much of a message movie, but what it is a hilarious movie that does different things with its plot and its mechanics and turns into a wholly different experience that will surprise you throughout and probably confuse you a little bit, but that's okay. The plot doesn't matter. Seriously, it doesn't. Well, that does it for this review. My name is Brad Wiswall. I write for the website The Wiz Says. That's my website for film, game, and TV reviews, as well as other pop culture musings and thoughts. I'm on Twitter at The Wiz Says, and I'm also at Facebook at The Wiz Says. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Pablo Picasso was never called an asshole.